Welcome to another episode of Top Lines and Tails, your weekly livestock podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harbro, for their continued support. This week on Top Lines and Tails, we're talking to an auctioneer, and an auctioneer whose family I know because I've got Drew Patrick on the call from Hexham Northern Marts. And Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Andy, for inviting me.
And the reason I say I know your family, your dad used to take my cattle to Smithfield going back in the 1980s, probably before you were born. I certainly wouldn't be very...
Yeah, I had a brief chat with him, and he said, he took used to take your stock to Smithfield, and I think he took some stuff up to the Highland Show as well. He was, he was saying he had 2 lorry loads up where there was the likes of yourself and John Sinnott, Robin Hume, the Dongers, and I think it was Suwannee and Archer. There was 2 lorry loads that went up to the Highland,
Yeah, and he used to take down to Smithfield. He would take all the Hereford cattle as well. So we'd have Fred Harrington and John Wayman Jones in there. There was some party in the back of that wagon a few times on the way down.
Yeah. So I hear. Yeah, no, Dad enjoyed his few years going down to Smithfield, and he enjoyed showing down there. And I believe he was under the tutorage of Bob Powell for a few years as well. I think he used to go around fitting cattle for people, and he's got some thoroughly enjoyable memories and some things he hasn't quite told us and he's kept away from us.
I'm not going to tell you either. I tell you that what goes to Smithfield stays in Smithfield. So.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. As I said at the top of the call there, that you're now an auctioneer and been auctioneering a while. So tell us how you got into that and where you started.
Obviously going around markets from a very early age with Dad and grandchildren and things, buying cattle and things. I always wanted to be kind of either buying stock or wanting to be an auctioneer. I managed to go to college and then university, and I was working in an abattoir for nearly about a year or so, and the opportunity to move north up to Hexham came about. This was about 9 years ago now, and I did a bit of work experience in Northumberland in my college days. I went for the job, managed to land it, and I've been here just under 9 years now at Hexham Mart. Started here as a trainee and just worked my way through the ranks, really.
Okay, well, I mean that's great to hear. We'll go on to a bit more of your career and what you do in a second. But for youngsters going into the business, people coming into the livestock business or going from farming and deciding to get into auctioneers, I mean, is that the basic route? Does it just get your heads down and get your job done and then throw your CV out there, or is it a little bit more about who you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've definitely got to be a little bit proactive. Go out there. There's opportunities everywhere. You've like you say, you kind of start at the bottom. You're going to be down sorting bees, sorting sheep, down on the docks, and move your way through. The best thing to do is get out there, put your CV out there, ring auctioneers, and the biggest thing is to be proactive. Firms like to see someone with a bit of ambition, a little bit of drive, and if you've got that, that's the start of it, to be honest.
Okay, I guess if they take people on, then they want to take somebody on who's got ambitious to go all the way to the top, not just take somebody on who's just who's going to sit there or move on. So yeah, I can understand that. And tell us a little bit more. Then you're at Hexham and Northern Marts now. I mean, they're a big player in the northeast and a company that's growing, I think.
Yes, it's a great company. It's a very well established company. They've been here on Tyne Green for about 26, 27 years. At the new market here, there used to be a couple of markets up in the top of Hexham there, and the two companies amalgamated together. And then we also have Scott's Gap Market, which we've had on this morning, which is a seasonal fat market for sheep. We open it up in July, and that will run now till about the beginning of December, when lambs start to kind of run out in that kind of area. So those are the livestock side of things, and then we do antiques and furniture up at Rothbury, which is the old Rothbury market, and we have 4 sales there a year for antiques and, like I say, furniture. And then we also now, which we started 2 years ago, antiques and furniture at Hexham as well, using all the facilities here. And it's a very well established company. We've as a company, we also own Hexham Racecourse, and we have several farms in the portfolio. So it's a well-established company which is run by some directors, as a team of directors there, and then shareholders as well.
Okay, well, you mentioned Rothbury Market there. I remember my father judging in Rothbury Market used to buy a lot of suckled calves. Of course, that you're very much in a suckled calf area there in the northeast, but also it's a mule part of the world as well. You're in amongst the mule boys there, so yeah, you've got two big enterprises, I suppose, coming out of that northeast there in the breeding side of it. And let's just take a look at the industry a little bit this year, Drew. That was sort of the idea of the call, really. I mean, you said you started there, but you mentioned to me you sort of sell store cattle most of the year, but then you get into the breeding sales this time of year. So let's just have a little look at sort of how's the sheep industry looking. Fat lamb prices, I suppose, are up this year. So where are we now?
Yeah, so we had a fat lamb sale here at Hexham yesterday, which is good. The fat lamb trade is good. We're in front of last year, really. Like yesterday, we'd averaged 255 pence a kilo for a sale that averaged 46 kilos, and then the same sale this time last year we were 231 pence a kilo. So we are a little bit in front, which is good. I think I'd say the lamb numbers are a little bit tighter this time because of the poor spring and the drought. The drought last year reduced lamb crops, and that's nationwide. It's not just up here, and that's helped things a little bit. Yeah, definitely. So it's been fairly good with the lamb trade. A little bit, it could be a little bit. We're a little bit worried for what could happen from November, December onwards. You never know what's going to happen with imports and things, especially the way things are in Australia at the moment. But at the moment, we're riding on top of the crest of the wave,
Good, and that's good to hear. And I mean, lamb prices need to be up. We know that because obviously cost of everything else is spiraling through the roof. And pro rata, I don't suppose what you just talked there, probably a 10% increase there probably isn't enough. But maybe we'll go into that in a little bit more detail as to sort of where that's going. But let's just talk about the breeding sales a little bit. And the tup sales start down the south in July, really, but they start really in earnest, I think, with Kelso ram sale, don't they, with the commercial tups anyway.
Yes, yeah. Kelso was, again, another successful year for us at Kelso. I would say the trade for tups this time, the top end were very, very good to sell. The bottom end would be probably a little bit sharper than last year, but the middle road of tups and the top end were very, very similar to last year, but the bottom end would probably be sharper.
Okay.
And yeah, it was quite surprising because they usually say, the old thing would be saying if the fat lambs are good, the tup sales are a little bit stickier because people are fairly happy with what they're breeding. But no, they've been good. Tup sales have been good at Bilth, Kelso, and then Bilth as well.
And you run a ring. Do you run one ring at Kelso or two?
We've got two of our own rings. Chris Armstrong, colleague of mine, runs a Texel ring, Ring 5 there. And I believe this year we had about 180 odd shearlings, and I think there was 30 or 40 lambs. And then Jack Walton, my other colleague, runs the Leicester ring, and he had just over 200 Leicesters in there, and that's a society sale. And then there's part of the society sale, I should say, because L&S, Larry and Simon, run another ring as well, which is also a society sale.
Okay.
And then personally, I sell a few crossbred tups in a separate ring, which is a shared ring. And this year, again, for the second year, we sold some Dorpers. So last year it was the first time we sold Dorpers in Kelso, and we did it again this year.
Okay, we'll have a look at the Dorpers. Just one name you mentioned there, Jack Walton, of course, is grandson of Michael Walton, isn't he? So there's another man there with a pedigree that's not been with you that long, a keen young man himself.
Yes, yeah. No, Jack started with us about, I want to say about 3.5 years ago now, and he's come on really, really well, and he's now more on the sheep side of things, on store sheep, cast ewes, and selling also breeding sheep and the tups as well. Yeah, he's definitely got a sheep pedigree anyway. Yeah,
that's true enough. He has there, and you mentioned the Dorpers there, and I mean there are other. I wouldn't like to call them a minor breed. They're probably a breed that's on the way now. I know I've seen them in Australia. They're South African originally, aren't they? And
yes.
Are they getting more breeders in that line? Then there's a few people getting into that breed.
Yeah, definitely, and I think there's more people looking at them for systems such as your Easy Care and your more extensive sort of systems, and they kind of fit into that model. They put a little bit of shape into those Easy Care type sheep for the deadweight kind of market, and that's what the people are starting to tap into really, and. So it worked well. I think we sold 6 this time, average 583 quid with a top of £1,000. So it was good. Yeah,
they're a breed. If people don't know them, they're a breed that shed their wool as well. I mean, some of them are white, but they also have the ones with the black head. Looks like they've had a bucket of tar stuck on their head, don't they? And they are quite striking, aren't they?
Oh, they are, yeah. It's quite good for this side of the country, the black and white, and we're in black and white sort of an area, and they've got black heads, and then the ones that we sold, they've more hair on them really. They are very, very much Easy Care. They'd be quite a good sheep for myself. Really, I'm not a very keen clipper, so yeah.
Sounds me too. I've got Rylands, and they got too much wool, but I don't clip them myself. But I mentioned, I suppose, the minor breeds, and I mentioned that they still have a part to play in the industry? Are we still seeing some of those older breeds, should I say, coming back in?
Yeah, definitely. I do think they do. There is, and that's the best thing about the British, the sheep industry. Really, we breed such a wide, varied amount of sheep, and they're all for slightly different markets. And it's good. We can cater for all different types of markets, and these breeds certainly do that. We are seeing more people starting to go back to your Hampshires, and using those, and they convert grass well, and they put a fair bit of easy fleshing onto them. They can put a nice cover of fat on them. And then also, possibly your primitive breeds, we're seeing a few more people using like your Shetland type yows, especially for, like I say, extensive systems. And we do have a little bit more demand for your Herdwicks and people using them and putting a continental terminal sire on them. If we are going as an industry going towards that extensification, those primitive breeds are brilliant for that.
Yeah, sure. And of course, there's a lot of people will buy the smaller minority breeds, buy them because they just want to take them to the shows and get a bit of crack in the summer, a bit like myself. But every one of them has a purpose, or should have a purpose, from sort of where it started out. And do you think the shows have an input into the sheep industry? I mean, we see a lot of sheep at the shows, and high prices and what have you. What role does the show take within the livestock industry?
Yeah, definitely. I think they still do have a part to play. Sadly, it's there is less people doing showing because of the costs, and it is a shame. But they are a massive shop window for these pedigree breeders, and you are seeing it. And I think the show circuit is becoming a little bit more commercialized, which is good, and people looking for working sheep, and that's probably the way it should go, to be fair. Because, but yeah, I definitely do. I do think there is a place for showing, and it's just good advertisement. You see these top end breeders using shows to market the stock, and that's what it's about. If people don't see them, they don't know that you're there. Yep. It's simple as that.
True. I mean, there will be a few more breeding sheep and cattle, for that matter, being sold privately now, sitting at the top end, where people are sort of selling them at shows, or they're selling them on the internet or what have you. But the livestock markets are still there as a benchmark for the pricing, really, isn't it? I mean, if we didn't have the livestock markets, nobody would know what anything was worth.
No, definitely not. It sets a precedence right through the industry. It doesn't matter whether it's breeding stock or your prime stock. We see it all the time. We've had a few mule Gimmer lamb sales and mule yow lamb sales this last few weeks, and you can see the people that are coming just putting their head through the door, and you're selling. You just want to know what the average is so you can sell your sheep at home. And if it wasn't for the rings, if it wasn't for the live ring, that wouldn't happen.
No.
And it's just exactly the same for the fat stock ring. If prime lambs are in great demand, you always see it first. The rings go dearer first, and the processors and the deadweight chaps have to sit the prices up. So it does set a benchmark, definitely.
Interestingly, that probably a lot of people probably won't know this. I mean, I live in France; they probably know that, but there aren't many livestock markets aren't any livestock markets here in France at all. Everything goes on the deadweight and goes straight out there. So that basically gives the buyer the chance to dictate that price. Whereas, as I said, the livestock market, they set that benchmark, and everyone has to buy them. Britain is really probably one of the last. Britain and Ireland probably one of the last ones now to still have livestock markets. And is the livestock market days numbered? I remember saying this to John Thorley 20 years ago, and he said, "It's so stupid, we have to have livestock markets." So we don't have any. But would you feel going forward, is the livestock market's days numbered to come in line with the rest of Europe?
I think we are quite a stubborn bunch in this country. And I think, we'll stick with it. And it's... there's a great danger if people do leave them. There's you look at other countries, you look at the Southern Ireland, especially with their prime stock, especially their fat cattle. Southern Ireland does not have a fat cattle live auction now, and they are dictated to by price by the processors.
Only one processor, I think.
but we have to be very, very careful what happens, because really with a livestock ring, the farmer is still in charge. If he's not happy, if that person, he or she, is not happy with the price they are receiving, they can take them home, as long as they're not in a red market, obviously.
Take them home and cost them nothing apart from a day out. Yeah,
exactly. And you're still in charge with it. But once you stick your stock on a wagon and they go to an abattoir, that's it. They're gone.
Yeah, sure.
And there's no coming back.
And there's a slight social aspect to it as well, I think. I mean, not like it used to be. My father would go to Kidderminster Market every week and sell cattle, sheep and pigs, and wouldn't come home till about 8 o'clock at night, with a driver sort of thing, getting in the market bar. I don't think that happens anymore, but there is still a social aspect to it, which is important for certainly nowadays farmers' mental health. Definitely,
we saw it. It was very, very prevalent in COVID times, and the amount of times, and I'll happily speak on behalf of my colleagues and other auctioneers in the north of England and across the country. Auctioneers in COVID time weren't just people for business, but we were there, as pastoral reasons. It was the amount of times we had farmers ringing us up just for a crack. Yeah. And they were desperate to get back to the mart, just to speak to people. And mental health is a massive thing. It's a big topic at the moment, and the marts provide a hub. It's not just a business hub; it's a hub for people. And we see, there's people that live in very, very remote rural areas, and they don't see many other people other than when if they go and do the shopping, or two, if they come to the mart and sell some stock. Now, it's a big thing. You can see it, the slightly older people, they come, and you can see it here. We have a fat sale here on a Tuesday and a store sale on a Friday. It's the same chaps come down. They have their breakfast. They have a crack. They're having their dinners, and and they're seeing people and just speaking to people. It's a good thing. It really is a good thing. And if livestock markets weren't there to provide that hub, gosh, I would hate to think, what state people's mental well-being it will be in,
Yeah, totally agree. It is something that's said as a nation we should be proud of, that facility is still there. And let's move on a little bit. You've been, you say, 9 or 10 years there. Are we still improving in quality in our livestock? I know you're involved in cattle as well. Are we still seeing an improvement? Is everybody still striving to get their livestock better, or have we reached a plateau now with quality, or is the quality changing from a different type?
It's a different type, I think. Since I started, it's the goalposts are kind of moving. What we're very, very good at that with our livestock industry in this country is adapting. So if the requirements from abattoirs or butchers is slightly changing, our producers are very, very quick to change that. And you can see it 2-3 years ago, there was a great demand for those export type lambs, those Beltex and Dutch Texel type lambs for the export. Well, because there's been so many on the market, that premium for that product hasn't been quite as much as it has been in previous years. So people have adapted. The heavier type lambs be making more money and in greater demand. So people have kind of moved to slightly bigger sheep, and that's been obvious this last 2 years. And then with the cattle, same thing. People are kind of moving away. We're seeing it a lot here, where we would have a heck of a lot of, a large percentage of continental breeds, and people moving now to easier fleshing, easier carving, easier managed, like native breeds, and we're seeing that. So I would say yes, people's quality is good. It depends what your measure of quality is. Quality of stock is good because the standard of stock is still very, very good, but it could be slightly different. Like back 10 years ago, everybody was looking for those U and U plus and E grade cattle and sheep, but now they're looking for, like I say, something it's healthy, it's easier managed, and it's growing quick, and we are seeing that. People are willing to pay a premium for a good breeding stock.
Comes down to profit at the end of the day. All of it does, doesn't it? But I mean, sometimes it's very hard to know where to go next. And you mentioned the export market there, of course, is a bone of contention since we lost that from Brexit. And you're a man with your ear to the ground. I don't suppose you've got a crystal ball any more than the rest of us, but are we starting to see the export market coming back now?
Yeah, to be fair, personally, I don't actually think it's had too much of an effect. The export demand, yes, it's speaking to a few processors, it's been a bit of a headache, and there has been more red tape and things, but export demand is still there. There's a large population of ethnic consumers in Europe, and they want fresh. They want fresh lamb. They don't, they're not overly keen on frozen type lamb and mutton. They want it fresh. And we can provide that here in great number. Sure. And yeah, I do. I think the export for British produce, because we do have such a good product, is still there. Yeah,
and obviously the promotion of that both in our own countries and overseas. I guess the likes of the National Sheep Association. We spoke to Phil Stocker last week or a couple of weeks ago on this podcast from the NSA and the AHDB as well. I mean, how do those guys help the industry?
Yeah, I do think they are promoting the industry rather well now. They, a few years ago, they would get a little bit of stick from farmers and auctioneers and other people on the ground, but we are seeing them. They're promoting our products abroad. And also, it's good to see AHDB doing commercials on primetime TV, on ITV and things. And they are promoting the product. They're promoting the product at these big shows. You get them in Paris and out in Germany, and they've got the stands, and they are promoting it. And I do believe they are doing a good job.
Good,
to be fair,
good. That's good to hear that the levy money that goes into them is being used wisely. And what about some of on the pedigree side? I'll go back to now some of these high flying prices that we see, and we know the Texel Sportsman Double Diamond a couple of years ago, £350,000 made headlines all over the world, and we see these high prices for blackies and various things. Does that help the trade, or is that actually a little bit of a red herring that turns people away from farmers, thinking they've all got too much money?
I've got to be very careful how I answer this one, Andy. But I don't know. It's sometimes you do hear it. A lot of farmers, local farmers, you can hear them. Oh, that's not doing much good for the industry, and people think that we're always whinging on. We haven't got any money and things, but actually, it's good promotion for the industry. Any promotion that gets into the news is good. I think anyway, but if people are looking to source, we just discussed the top genetics, they've got to go out there and pay for it, and that's what's happening. You're seeing that, and if people want to go out and spend that kind of money, that's up to them. yeah,
it is a pyramid, isn't it? I mean, you're the very high price ones at the top, and the top genetics working its way down. I mean, you'll know in the part of the world where you are, of course, the Swaledales have been party to grabbing some headlines with the Swaledale breed, making the high prices. But I mean, that helps their cause when they've got the Blackies and the Chivets and that to contend with. They've got to keep flying their own flag. So I suppose it.
Definitely. And the Swales are slightly different again, because those guys, there's a very, very tight pool of genetics they can go for, because the Swales are slightly different. They, which I do believe they might be one of the only breeds. They don't actually use any AI at all. Right. So if you want to got to get a good tup, they've got to go out and spend a bit of money and get him. Okay. So yeah.
Fair enough. And while we're on the pedigrees there, of course, the other thing that's, again, is a topical subject from time to time is the index figures. And I mean, nowadays the MLC weight recording's been in place, for 30, 40 years, and index figures originally didn't really mean much because they were just sort of local recorded against each other. But they've got that a lot more scientific now. Do you see a demand in that? Do you see let's go back to your Kelso and your Bilth ring. Do you see a demand for buyers paying more for high index figures, or is it irrelevant?
Well, we saw it. I was actually speaking to someone at Bilth the other week, back about 10, 12 years ago. And actually, my father mentioned it. We was having a chat with a well-known Suffolk breeder that's no longer breeding Suffolks. But the Welsh government had a scheme on for, there was like a grant on, and it was all for high index tups. Well, that soon went off because really, I don't know more about sheep-wise, but they're not really looking for, I could be completely wrong, but people still want a good sheep at the end of the day. The demand for a good, solid commercial sheep certainly outweighs one that has, high indexes. I know there are breeds out there that just sell them on indexes, and yes, they do. They have a very, they have a good following. I think there's more. It's probably more. I think people look into it more with cattle. Certainly, we see a lot more of it. People are on the cattle side of things. They're looking for those high index bulls. Bulls that have got high, terminal indexes, and then female indexes as well. They are looking at them. But also, I think people still want a good beast. If it doesn't matter if it's a bull or a female or a sheep, they have to have a beast that's, you don't. It's not all about looks, I know that, but it's got to be a good commercial beast.
Somebody said to me that if the index figures were that accurate, that there would be no need for livestock markets or for shows for that matter, because you just go online and buy the ones with the highest figures. So you're right, there has to be taken into account, but you still need to see the animal. Yeah, okay.
I do think that there's definitely place for them, but they have to be more accurate. And then for me personally, I do believe, speaking to farmers, they're looking for an animal that converts. It's more about feed conversion, and I think that's the way the industry should be going. It's an animal that's it's born easily, grows quick, converts forage, converts your concentrates as quickly as possible, because as an industry, the sheep and cattle industry, we're miles behind our competitors, and our competitors really are the pork and poultry industry. And you look how their genetics have changed in the last 40, 50 years. Well, it's totally, you can't even compare them. As sheep and cattle producers, I do think we need to be, I've got to be careful with how I say this, but they should be probably breeding animals that, like I say, born easily, grow quick, off feed, and conversion rates really.
You mentioned earlier on the crossbred ring, which is sort of starting to gather momentum. I know my pal Rob Patterson was selling crossbred tups in Kelsos 25 years ago, and there was a demand for them then. But we are, as a nation, and I'm saying sort of Britain and Ireland as a nation, dearly hang on to and protect our pedigree genetics there. And we've had this conversation: is there a place for the crossbred tups, and will we see more of those coming on in the future?
Yeah, I definitely do think there's a place for them, because to get a good crossbred tup, you need a good pedigree animal. So one has to go with the other one, and the crossbred tups, they got a lot of hybrid vigor. They go out there and we're seeing it as auctioneers here. People say they're living longer, they tup more yows. Yes, you might not quite get the consistency. The one thing that does, it's like a crossbred tup or a crossbred bull. You don't probably get the consistency through its offspring, because they'll either throw one way or another sometimes. But
I differ. Well, I would beg to differ on that one. I won't beg to differ in the sheep world. But if you look at the American cattle industry now, the whole thing has gone down a hybrid route, and there are hybrids that are purebreds, if you know what I mean. And the same if you look into Africa and Australia, where they're breeding Brahmins into these things for reasons that they need to adapt to their own nation. But if you go, I suppose it's like the dog world, really. I mean, a Labradoodle still isn't recognised as a breed, but it's getting to the point now when you're breeding Labradoodles with 5 generations back and on both sides, then you have got a breed in its own right. But nobody seems to have managed to nail that crossbred tup down into something with a deeper pedigree.
No, I know what you mean. It's we're seeing a lot of it now, especially with your Charlie Beltixes and your Texel Beltixes. They're very, very popular, very popular, and they do a good job. They do, just to produce a good commercial fat lamb. Yeah, it definitely is a place for them, and they are becoming more popular. And it's becoming apparent both at Kelso and down there at Bilth. The high prices are increasing every year, and it's good. It's good to see.
You're right. I mentioned my pal Rob Patterson, and again, Rob runs a lot of those crossbred tups there. Certainly, Charolais Beltex is a good combo, and he's got a queue of people buying those and selling them at home, because maybe there isn't actually the ring for them. Although there is a crossbred ring, I suppose, as you said, at both those places. But there'll be a lot of maybe mixed mishmashes in there of what's all in that ring, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's move on to another controversial subject then while we're at it. And
you're putting me in a corner here.
No, you're okay on this one, but I mean, rewilding is starting to become the buzzword now, isn't it? People buying up carbon credits, buying up the mountains and putting trees on them, what have you. And it's bringing the sheep off the hills. And I spoke to Derek Redpath last week, and he said, well, that's kind of giving the civet a little bit of an edge, because they don't need the sheep quite so hardy to live up on the mountains. They can bring something that's living on lower land. So you start to see that creeping into your industry now, starting to see that affecting the business. It's a real shame. Like in our area here, 2 great examples today. There's 2 flocks at Longtown today from real hard sheep, 2 flocks of blacker yows, and they will live in some of the harshest environments in the Northumberland and Scottish borders, and all that hill, and that's coming down from the Carter Bar into Kielder down there, and that some of that will be some of the harshest environments around, and that's all getting rewilded. There's a lot of acres going there, and we've also got here with ourselves. We've got a flock of yows coming through next week. If that farm there's talk of that farm being rewilded, who knows? But we are seeing it more and more, and it is a real shame, because it's not just a couple of years of breeding behind these sheep. There's hundreds of years of breeding behind these sheep, and that's just gone. And we're seeing more and more of it, and where we're going as a country, and I don't know. It's a real shame, because if they're talking about rewilding, well, I'm afraid some of the so-called experts, if you're taking a grazing stock, a sheep off that environment, it's not going to look like that in a couple of years' time. We're seeing it now in certain areas that the sheep numbers are depleted a fair bit in the last 5-10 years, and amazingly, in the summer, we're seeing more fires. And there's actually less wildlife about, because every environment needs managed. It needs managed in a certain way, and our hills and uplands look like they do because they've been managed as they have been for the last few hundred years with sheep. And it's a great shame. It is a great shame. It all comes down to carbon, doesn't it? And we had Professor Gilliland, a very, very clever man, on the podcast a few months ago, and him saying, well, trees aren't the exact answer. I mean, I don't think anybody does know the answer. It's just about a short stopgap and people being seen to do something for the industry. But as you said, when they start losing those flocks that have been going back generations, you're never going to replace that breeding again, are you?
No, it is a bit of a worry. We are worrying we are worried as an industry of where's our food going to come from? It's we've how many more people here now compared to 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and yet we're producing less food. It doesn't take a genius, we're going to go hungry before long.
Unless we all go vegan, which we're not going to do. So you're right, that some of that has to be turning itself around. Even then, you can't eat a tree. That's another. Well, you probably can eat a tree, I guess, but it's if you.
Well, I don't mind broccoli now and then.
And let's move from the sheep a little bit. You say you're mainly in the cattle trade, the beef trade, and we've talked about that. And are we seeing, the suckler cows are being reduced again off the hills, aren't they? And they're changing too. But the numbers of suckler cows certainly in Scotland are declining very fast. Is that reflecting in your own markets?
Yeah, it's becoming very hard to just keep our numbers up. Not going to lie, we've sold. Well, we were just tallying it up the other day. In our catchment area of Cumbria, the Scottish borders, and Northumberland, we've probably sold off nearly 5,500 cows in the past 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And it's and that's either people killing them off or we've dispersed herds. And that's a lot. That is a lot, and it's a massive worry for us. And as a business, our biggest income is store cattle. It is a big worry, to be honest.
Is there something that the government can do to reverse this if they wanted to?
Unless they go back, and which I know they won't, because we had a meeting with one of the ministers about 18 months ago, and I asked her directly, what are your plans? You can do it in Scotland. You've got a suckler. They've got a suckler scheme there, and a producer gets £100 a head for every calf they produce. Why can't we do that here in England and Wales? Wouldn't give me an answer, and that's the only way to do it, really. Unless we're getting more for our product. They're saying, subsidies are coming off. That's all well and good, but we've got to get paid for that product. That product's going to be more. And it's a big worry for us. The cattle numbers are becoming tight, and especially suckler cows in the uplands. They're expensive, very expensive to keep. A lot of these fellas have got to bring all the straw in, all the concentrate feed in, and it's it could be costing 750, 800 quid to keep a cow a year. Well, it's becoming hard to make it financially viable. And
you mentioned earlier on a bit of a swing back towards the native breeds, the likes of the Shorthorn and the Angus and the Hereford to a degree as well, and probably not in your part of the world, but and bringing the cow sizes down as well. I think you say the size of the cows. They're bringing the cow sizes. Do you get involved in pedigree sales there, Drew? Have you got pedigree sales going through?
Yeah, well, it started. Because I have a fair interest in pedigree cattle myself, and the second year I was here, tried to get a bull sale going, and we've now got a successful Limousin bull sale in May, and that's just run commercially. Really, it's not a society sale, but that goes on well. Other pedigree routes, we don't really have that here. Our competitors have kind of have got that over in the west there. We've got a Limousin bull sale here, which is just going on well. We sell between 30 and 40 bulls there, and that goes fairly well. With the cattle breeding side of things, we're noticing it more people. We sell a lot of Angus bulls and actually Herefords and more Herefords and Shorthorns now. It's the last couple of years. People looking to keep replacements because replacement costs are going up and up, and people looking to breed their own, and they are turning to the native, and we're seeing that throughout the industry, really. More our Angus and Hereford numbers of store cattle have they've gone up significantly this last couple of years.
You mentioned your competitors across there in the west, which we won't name names. We won't name names, but they're there. They obviously are your direct competitors, and a company that's grown very fast and taken over. Is there still an attitude from farmers to use the local market rather than heading across to the big market or bigger market there in Carlisle? Or do you get people that are loyal, or maybe it's just quicker for them to come and use your market rather than run the cattle over there? So do you tend to find that you get loyalty from local farmers at Hexham?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it comes down to price, and I would like to say we're very, very, very competitive at the moment, especially on the commercial stock on our store cattle and on the sheep side of things. But yeah, people, they're very, very, very lucky up here in the north of England. They've got so many markets on the doorstep. Like hailing from West Wales, we literally had two markets within 30-40 mile. Here you could have your pick of some of the best markets in the country within 30-40 mile. There's an abundance of markets here, and they're all doing very, very well, and we're all battling with each other, and competition is the best thing. And producers up here, you've got quite a lot of auction companies competing against each other. And that's good. That's good for us all. Really.
Keeps you on your toes, Drew. That's what it does. It keeps you on your toes.
Oh, it definitely
on your toes
that.
and on your game. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat to me today. I know you auctioneers are all very busy people and a busy mark there, and we haven't quite finished the end of the breeding top sale season yet. I guess the Swalers and the Blackies are still to go in the next week or two.
We've got a big sale next week. I'll do a little plug. Our draft sale next Thursday. We'll have a few. Is quite a few Blackies and not so many Swales, but predominantly Blackie draft ewes. And then Monday we've got the Blackie top sale day, which is good. And now we moved to the Hill ewes. Now we've finished with the mule gimmer lambs. We've done mule gimmer lambs last Thursday at the Towlaw sale, and mule yow lambs are at the beginning of the month, so it's been a good month. It's been a busy month, but enjoyable.
And we mentioned the mule yow lambs. I used to buy a lot of them up in that part of the world ourselves, and prices up on those as well to pro-rata to everything else. The mule yow lambs taking a bit more expensive to buy this year.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. Our first sale, we had our first two sales here at Hexham, or Blackie bred. They're all Nempster lamb, or North of England mules, but they're out of the Blackies. So, because there's not many people that know, there are two types of North of England mules. You get your Blackie types and your Swale types. So, the first sale we had. There was about 1,1700, and we averaged 155 quid, I think they were. So, and they were all tupping lambs, they're all good, which they'll be nearly up a tenner. And then second sale is a mixture of tupping and running lambs, and they would be 12, 13 quid up in the year as well. And then last week we had the Towlaw gimmer lambs, which is out the Swale, 5,500, and they averaged 125, 126, and that's from your top tupping lambs to your running lambs. And we are seeing it as an industry, people coming back to the mule. The mule gimmers this time have been in great demand. They've been tremendous. They've been, couldn't believe it. We had our gimmer sale last Wednesday. 2,200 mule gimmers to average £218, which is up 30 quid on the year.
My father would turn in his grave. He had to pay more than 40 for him when he used to go. We used to go there and buy truckloads of the things there. But it's all pro rata, as you said. If we're getting more for the lambs and the rest of it, well,
yeah. But we're seeing it. There's an industry. People are coming back. They are coming back to a sheep that she can produce two lambs off. Predominantly off grass, milk well, and the people are coming back to the mule, which is fantastic to see.
Probably I should mention the other half of that mule, of course, is a blue-faced Leicester, and the backbone of the sheep industry in the UK. Some people would say by the fact that it does produce a mule out of all sorts of different types of sheep in different places, and you get blue-faced Leicesters, of course, are predominantly from your area originally, weren't they? That was their mainstay. So did you get involved in those as well?
Yeah, a little bit, not too much. Jack's more the expert. Jack and Harrison, we've got an apprentice auctioneer who just started last year as well, and Jack and Harrison are the Blueface Leicester experts, to be fair, in our company. But we like we previously said, we sell them up at Kelso, and then we have them down at Bilth, and we sell them on behalf of Michael Walton auctioneers, and they are the backbone of them. Everybody gets a bit of blueface Leicesteritis this time of year, so yeah.
Flying trade, and still on the up. Well, Drew, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I think we're sort of catching up with what's going on at the moment, if you like, in the industry, and it's brilliant. And I'm glad to give you a shout, and another time to see where we've moved on to. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and hear how the industry is going.
Thank you very, very much for having me. And we getting into cattle sales now, so hopefully the cattle sales will go as well as the sheep sales. So yeah, thank you very, very much for having me.
Okay, well, I'll let you get back to your business. And Drew, thanks again.
Lovely. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Top Lines and Tails, your weekly livestock podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harborough, for their continued support. And if you're thinking about how to boost fertility in your flock this autumn, why not contact Harborough, because they have offers available on feet and fertility lick buckets. And there's a great science behind these buckets. There's a great story about how nutrition at the point of conception can influence lambs for the rest of their life. So get in touch with Harborough there and see how their feet and fertility buckets can help you in your business, and their other range of livestock nutrition and nutritional advice. So get in touch with Harborough. Please find them on the internet or your local representative. And while you're there on the internet, don't forget to look up our Top Lines and Tails Facebook page and subscribe to that, and maybe subscribe to our weekly podcast as well, wherever you get your podcast from. So please just remember to click that button.